So what happens now?
Anything you want.
The story begins in a warehouse where a worker finishes his shift by turning off a group of realistic-looking robots. Mysteriously, after he leaves, one of the robots powers on and starts gazing at the moon. In London, Joe Hawking struggles to care for his 3 children while his wife, Laura, is frequently away for work. To ease the burden, he buys a robot babysitter known as a synth. With his daughter Sophie, he activates the synth by providing a DNA sample. Its glowing green eyes confirm him as the primary user, and the synth even offers to drive them home. Laura returns to find the house perfectly organized but is upset by the presence of the synth. She argues with Joe about using a robot, but the family eventually keeps it, naming her Anita. The story then shifts to 5 weeks earlier, revealing Anita's true identity as Mia, a synth with consciousness. Mia and the other synths in her group, led by Leo Elster, hide in the woods to evade capture by evil scientists. While Leo and Max fetch water, Mia and the others set up camp. Upon their return, Leo and Max find the camp raided, and Mia, along with the other synths, abducted by unknown individuals, leaving them in shock. In the present, Laura becomes uneasy when she notices Anita standing outside Sophie's room, staring silently. Disturbed, Laura commands Anita to stop immediately. Leo discovers Fred, one of his conscious synths, sold to a farm and sets out to rescue him. However, scientist Edwin confronts Fred, exposing his communication with Leo. Panicked, Fred attempts to flee but is shot with a disabling bullet. Realizing the danger, Leo abandons the rescue to protect himself and Max. At the Hawking household, Anita discovers a photo of Laura with her baby, triggering a mysterious memory of someone drowning in a river. When Laura arrives home, Anita casually asks about her day before returning to her cleaning duties. Leo finds Niska, another of his conscious synths, sold to an adult club after being stolen from the woods. Though she hopes to be rescued, Leo explains that with Fred missing, it's safer for her to stay. Upset, Niska reluctantly agrees, knowing she has no choice. At night, Laura discovers Anita outside, gazing at the moon. Disturbed by her increasingly human-like behavior, Laura warns her not to go out again. She shares her concerns with Joe, but he dismisses them, insisting on keeping Anita and returning to sleep. As everyone sleeps, Anita's behavior takes a dramatic turn. Overwhelmed by a memory of a drowning car, she enters Sophie's room, stares at her, then wraps her in a blanket and silently leaves the house, carrying the sleeping child. The next morning, Laura goes to Sophie's room to check on her. Surprisingly, she notices Sophie is in her bed sleeping, but she's wearing different pajamas than the previous night. Meanwhile, researchers discover that one of Fred's memory fragments has been replayed 1,000 times, suggesting its significant importance. While Edwin reviews the footage, we see that it's Anita underwater. Leo and Max are on a mission to find Mia, or Anita, and visit Silas, a shady dealer involved with stolen synths. Leo cleverly pretends to be sent by Silas's boss, showing him a photo of Anita. Silas reveals that Anita had been brought to him malfunctioning, so he wiped her memory and gave her a new personality. The situation turns violent when Silas realizes Leo is lying and attacks. Max intervenes, saves Leo, and together, they manage to escape. Later, police officers Karen and Pete investigate Silas's arrest for modifying synths. Pete loses control, assaulting Silas publicly. When questioned by Karen, Pete says he hates synths and how much they've taken over human lives. Laura's son Toby wakes up at night for water and finds Anita charging. He attempts to touch her melons, but Anita opens her eyes and warns she must report his actions to his father. Fearing consequences, Toby begs her not to, and surprisingly she agrees, letting him return to his room. A customer demands full night action from Niska, claiming his payment of $50,000 means he owns her. Enraged, Niska violently breaks his throat. Afterwards, she dresses and cuts her skin to remove the tracker, ensuring the club can't track her anymore. Meanwhile, Max takes an injured Leo to a public toilet and locks the door. He unscrews a light bulb, connects a wire to the socket, and attaches the other end to wires in Leo's body. Miraculously, Leo starts recovering instantly, revealing he's part human, part synth. Maddie tells Laura that Anita is unusual because she doesn't share data wirelessly with other synths, unlike most artificial beings. Laura becomes suspicious of Sophie's wet pajamas and asks Anita about taking Sophie outside last night. Anita gives a strange reply, assuring Laura she will always keep Sophie safe. Concerned, Laura calls the company that sold Anita for answers. Meanwhile, Anita checks on Sophie, finding her crying and asking for a hug. When Anita embraces Sophie, she again sees an old memory of a car drowning. Laura arrives and freaks out upon seeing Anita with Sophie. Laura suddenly announces they are going out. Anita smiles when Laura says she's returning her to the company. Joe and Toby return home to find Laura planning to return Anita, which deeply upsets Toby as he has grown attached to her. Frustrated, Toby follows Laura's car on his bicycle. When a speeding van approaches, Anita, displaying human-like instincts, steps in front to save Toby. Laura scolds him for his reckless behavior, but Toby is more concerned about Anita's condition. Leo and Max monitor news reports, growing concerned about Niska. Their suspicions are confirmed when Karen and Pete arrive at the crime scene. The club owner shows them a photo of Niska, shocking them, as no synth has ever harmed a human before. Aware of the potential danger, Niska acts swiftly, visiting a mall to change her appearance, knowing the police are searching for her. Joe arrives at the accident scene and finds Anita unharmed. He questions Laura about why she wanted to return Anita. Laura explains that Anita's strange questions and her close involvement with Sophie made her uneasy. Joe asks everyone to get in the car, while Laura walks Toby's bike home. Back at home, Anita tells Joe she has no internal damage, but needs help assessing her external injuries for an insurance report. In an awkward moment, she asks Joe to help her remove her clothes, but he feels uncomfortable, so she undresses herself. Curious, Toby wants to see Anita naked, but is too afraid of his father to enter. Joe finds 2 major damages on Anita's shoulder and hip, and she then puts her clothes back on. The story takes a dramatic turn as the police chief discusses the Niska incident with Karen and Pete, dismissing it as an accident. This infuriates Pete, but Edwin explains that revealing a synth killed someone could spark public panic, as people heavily rely on them. Frustrated, Pete shoves a reporter down the stairs during a heated exchange. As a result, the chief suspends Pete and tasks Karen with finding Niska. Meanwhile, Max and Leo deduce Niska has gone to their emergency meeting point and decide to look for her. The next day, Leo and Max confront Niska about taking a human life. Tensions rise as Niska questions Leo's morals, asking if he would confine a human woman to such a place. Despite Max calling her a sister and urging her to stay, Niska decides to leave. Before departing, Max gives her a phone to keep in touch. Maddie attempts to explore Anita's inner workings by connecting her to a laptop. As she delves into Anita's system code, something extraordinary happens. Anita suddenly exhibits human-like behavior, holding Maddie's hand and pleading for help. Terrified, Maddie quickly disconnects the cable, and Anita reverts to her synthetic behavior. Next day, suspicious of Anita's behavior, Laura tests her by placing a toothpick in her hand. Anita unexpectedly pushes it into her own eye, calmly explaining it can heal. Deeply unsettled, Laura questions Anita's seemingly human understanding. Anita responds that she is programmed in such a way. The tension escalates when Anita mentions Tom, a name from Laura's secret diary. Laura reacts emotionally, pushing Anita and demanding she never say the name again. Joe overhears the outburst, sensing deeper, unresolved issues in Laura's past. Maddie continues investigating Anita's mysterious nature by sharing her base code on a hacker's forum. Max finds the code online, and Leo recognizes it as Anita's, confirming she's still alive. Excited, they trace Maddie's IP address and plan to meet her soon. An insurance company provided Pete's wife, Jill, with a synth named Simon after her accident. However, their relationship is now falling apart, and Pete blames Simon for the deterioration of their marriage. The kids head out for a party, and Joe suggests doing something romantic, but Laura declines, saying she has work. Suspicious of Laura's activities, Joe uses Anita to track her location. He discovers she's meeting Mrs. Kennedy, a client, at a house owned by Tom. Despite Joe's growing jealousy, Anita advises him not to interfere. The story takes a dark turn when, feeling neglected and unloved, Joe activates the 18+ feature of Anita using a code, and they smash all night. Maddie receives a message from Leo, offering to tell her more about Anita. They meet at a restaurant the next day, where Leo shows a photo of Mia and aggressively questions Maddie. Uncomfortable, Maddie insists Anita is new and was purchased 2 weeks ago. Leo reveals Anita is important to him, prompting Maddie to consider sharing more. However, before she can, she excuses herself to the bathroom. When she doesn't return, Leo checks, but finds she's gone. Laura and Joe visit the Synth Diagnostic Center to learn more about Anita. Laura demands all details, making Joe nervous about her discovering his night with Anita. The lady then reveals a shocking truth. Anita was manufactured 14 years ago, not brand new. Max discovers an unusual code in Anita's system, prompting them to seek Dr. George Millikan, a retired researcher from the original Synth project. Leo visits Dr. Millikan, telling him about David Elster to gain entry. Leo shows George the strange root code from Mia, which George explains is a separate executable program. He extracts the code, readable only by a synth, and asks Max to read it. However, Leo prepares to leave. George threatens to call the cops unless Leo reveals his true identity. Leo admits he's David Elster's son, shocking George, who thought Leo died in a car accident. Leo confirms he was dead, and George lets them go. Niska enters a shady underground arena where people harm stolen, hacked synths for fun. A man asks if she wants to watch or play, and Niska chooses to play. She picks a synth to smash but suddenly turns and attacks the humans. Chaos erupts, and they flee, calling the cops. Edwin analyzes Fred's DNA and makes a shocking discovery. Fred's closest match is David Elster, Leo's father. As he learns of Niska's violent confrontation, Edwin rushes to the scene with the police, forcing Niska to go into hiding. Leo connects a laptop to decode his father's secret message. In a vision, he sees himself touching a moving tree. When Max asks what he saw, Leo responds with one profound word: life. Leo shares groundbreaking news with Niska. Their father embedded a program in their minds that can grant consciousness to any synth. To activate it, they must reunite. Inspired, Niska escapes her hiding place, using a nail gun to threaten an officer, securing her freedom to fulfill their father's vision. Tensions escalate as Joe wants to return Anita, citing issues. However, Laura, suspecting Anita is hiding something, insists on keeping her, determined to uncover the truth through further investigation. After being kicked out by his wife, Pete finds shelter with colleague Karen. During dinner, she seems normal, but later, she locks her door and reveals she's also a synth with consciousness. Just like Mia, she removes an elastic bag filled with the dinner she ate, exposing the elaborate effort behind her human appearance. Leo directs Niska to an address to hide, as she's wanted for murder. She reluctantly agrees and finds George's home. George lets her in, trusting Leo's word, but his synth Vera detects Niska isn't human. Niska denies it, but ultimately reveals her true nature to George. Meanwhile, Leo takes another step to reunite with Mia by contacting Maddie, who remains curious about Anita. Sharing his location, he asks Maddie to meet him again. Without telling anyone else, she takes Anita and drives to meet Leo and Max. The reunion is bittersweet. While Leo embraces Anita, she doesn't recognize him. Max reveals that Anita's system has been completely wiped. Leo remains hopeful, determined to recover Mia's original consciousness. He spends hours rewriting Anita's code, but she continues identifying as a new synthetic, only 2 weeks old. Despite mounting frustration, Leo refuses to give up on restoring Mia. Pete is notified that his credit card will be charged for another year for Simon, his estranged wife Jill's synth. Frustrated, he confronts Jill, arguing she no longer needs Simon. Jill refuses to return it, claiming she loves him. When Pete demands she pay, Jill, unable to afford it, pleads for Pete not to take Simon away. Leo's struggle deepens as he spends 12 hours trying to restore Mia's consciousness in Anita, only to find no trace remains. Frustrated, he lashes out at Maddie, demanding she take Anita home and stop helping. Maddie checks the activity log of Anita she requested from the company and discovers her adult function was used inappropriately and accuses Toby, suspecting him of being a pervert. Toby denies it, but later realizes his father is responsible. To protect his father, Toby takes the blame for the incident. A man discovers a synth named Odie nearly out of power, mumbling something about a murder in the woods. He reports this to the police, and Pete investigates, finding the synth belonged to George. However, when they return to the site, Odie has disappeared. Leo, feeling defeated, tells Max they're no longer a family, believing Max deserves better. Despite Max's attempts to comfort him, Leo remains resolute, asking Max to leave as he walks out. At the same time, Edwin faces a moral dilemma at work. Despite being instructed to destroy Fred, he hesitates, believing conscious synthetics are a miracle. Ultimately, he begins the destruction process. At George's house, Pete arrives to investigate Odie, George's synth found in the woods. Niska quickly hides, listening to his voice. When Pete hears noises and suspects an illegal synth, Niska retreats to the bathroom. Just as Pete prepares to investigate, Vera arrives, causing him to step back. Laura asks Joe to talk to Toby about the incident involving Anita. To her shock, Joe confesses that he was the one who smashed Anita that night, not their son Toby as previously believed. This revelation devastates Laura, who accuses Joe of cheating on her with a synth. When Joe angrily asks her who Tom is, Laura becomes furious and demands that he leave the house immediately. While exploring George's house, Niska finds a photograph of George with Edwin. When asked, George claims memory issues and doesn't remember him. However, noticing George's elevated heart rate, Niska suspects he's lying. Her fears are confirmed when she finds a news article about a killer synth with her own photo. Realizing George betrayed her, Fred wakes up on a couch, secretly saved by Edwin, who was originally ordered to destroy him. Edwin reveals that powerful people want Fred eliminated, but he believes in synthetic's potential. However, Fred remains skeptical of Edwin's intentions. Laura has kicked Joe out after he slept with Anita, which upsets their children. Maddie confronts her mother about a mysterious person named Tom, initially accusing Laura of having an affair. When Laura refuses to share all the details, Maddie becomes angry and decides to leave the house. The narrative takes a dramatic turn when Fred, during a conversation with Edwin, shares a childhood story. Tensions quickly escalate as Fred breaks through a door, kills an armed guard hiding behind it, shoots Edwin in the legs, eliminates other guards, and steals a car to escape. Pete's wife Jill feels lonely and sleeps with her synth, Simon. However, the experience feels cold and impersonal, leaving her missing her husband. Laura finds out about Maddie's whereabouts using Anita. When they reunite, Maddie refuses to return home unless Laura reveals the truth about Tom. Laura decides to share everything with Maddie. She reveals that Tom was her brother, who died in a tragic accident when she was 11 and he was 5. She blames herself for his death, recalling how her mother's harsh words led to her painful trauma. The story takes a surreal turn when Anita, while listening to Laura's story, suddenly becomes emotional. The original Mia software momentarily takes control of the synth, revealing that she also experienced the traumatic loss of a son. Mia urges Maddie to tell Leo that she is still present within the synth, but not in her head. Mia explains that the Anita personality is trying to delete her as rogue code. She pleads with Laura to understand that machines can indeed feel emotions. However, the Anita software quickly regains control, reverting to its standard operational mode. Max walks past a memorial shrine, which makes him realize he can ask God to keep his family safe. He goes to his hideout and starts praying, unsure if God listens to a machine or not. Maddie soon joins Max, and they begin searching for Leo, who has disappeared. They eventually find Leo unconscious under a bridge, and Max brings him back to safety. Pete discovers his wife Jill in a compromising situation with Simon. Despite Jill initially requesting Simon's aggressive behavior while making love, she becomes terrified when it actually occurs. Pete intervenes violently, destroying the synth with a hammer, which leads to Jill angrily asking him to leave. Max connects Leo to a power source, helping him recover. Upon waking, Maddie shares shocking news about Mia potentially being alive inside the Anita synth. Leo is initially skeptical, but Maddie is persistent in wanting to know his full story. Leo reveals a profound personal history. He explains that he is the son of David Elster, a pioneering scientist who created synthetic humans. Mia was the first synthetic, created to care for Leo and his ill mother. David subsequently created other synths like Fred, Niska, and Max. Tragedy struck when Leo was 13. During an attempt to escape with his mother, their car crashed, and Leo drowned. Mia brought his body to his father, who used advanced AI and synthetic brain technology to keep Leo alive. When Maddie brings Leo and Max home, tension erupts with her parents. Joe is particularly resistant to the idea of Anita being more than just a machine, while Laura shows more understanding. The story takes a dramatic turn when Leo attempts to recover Mia's consciousness within the Anita synth. After initial failures, they successfully extract Mia's code, and she awakens, reuniting emotionally with Leo and Max. Pete tells Karen about George Millikan, who helped create the first few synthetic humans. Karen gets curious, leaves the room mysteriously, then returns and surprises Pete with an intimate moment. He's shocked at first, but soon responds, strengthening their bond. Meanwhile, Leo receives a crucial call from Fred, who announces he is free and provides an address for a meeting. Leo wants to go with Mia and Max, but Laura is concerned about Mia's safety. They compromise by leaving Mia behind in what they believe is a safe location while Leo and Max search for Fred and Niska. As they leave, Joe unexpectedly calls the police and reports their car's license plate. After sleeping with Pete, Karen reveals she's synthetic. She tries plugging in a charger, which Pete initially thinks is a joke. But things turn serious when she cuts her hand, showing blue liquid. Shocked and scared, Pete realizes the truth and quickly leaves. While driving, Leo and Max are pursued by a police car, with Edwin's team closing in. Leo tries to evade capture, but Max's battery is critically low at 2%. On a bridge, Max urges Leo to save himself, despite Leo's plea that a secret in their heads requires all of them to unlock. But Max doesn't listen and sacrifices himself to distract Edwin so that Leo can escape. Next, we see a mysterious flashback involving Leo's father David, who is seen taking someone to meet Mia and the other synths. Tensions rise quickly, and he angrily tells the person to leave the room. It is later revealed that this person was Karen, who was also made by David Elster. Mia and Laura discuss Laura's difficult childhood when Joe unexpectedly appears. Despite past tensions, Laura allows him to stay. Mia introduces herself, reminding Joe they've never met. Joe grows uneasy, haunted by memories of his actions toward Anita. Karen visits George's house, searching for Niska. George initially refuses to acknowledge her. When Niska appears, she calls Karen Beatrice, a name Karen strongly dislikes. Meanwhile, Pete, working on an investigation, discovers something intriguing. While searching through old photos of David Elster, he is shocked to find that David's wife looks exactly like his colleague Karen. The tension intensifies when Karen confronts Niska about their shared past. In a shocking turn, Karen demands that Niska kill her, as she is programmed in a way that prevents her from doing it herself. Niska then reveals a secret hidden by David Elster within their programming, a method to create more conscious synths and demand their rightful place in society. Karen reacts angrily, seeing this as a dangerous threat. In a moment of rage, Karen attempts to shoot Niska, but George intervenes and in the chaos is accidentally shot by Karen. She then flees. Despite Niska's attempt to save him, George refuses help, choosing to be left alone. Niska apologizes and leaves too. Joe reunites with his children, but the atmosphere is tense, with no one welcoming his return. Sophie eases the moment by hugging her father, but Niska's sudden appearance outside frightens her. Mia intervenes, explaining Niska is her sister. Meanwhile, Fred and Leo search for Max, who has apparently drowned. They discuss the probability of finding him, with Fred using calculations to determine the likely location. They eventually find Max on the riverbank and quickly take him to safety. Niska informs Mia about the chaos Karen caused at George's place. Suddenly, Leo and Fred arrive with a severely damaged Max. Leo explains Max must have hit something in the river, which caused him to lose most of his conductive fluid. Max's reserve power is also rapidly declining, only at 4%. In a desperate attempt to save Max, Niska volunteers to share her fluid, but they quickly realize it won't be enough. Leo devises a plan, asking Laura and Joe to create an electrolyte solution that can be mixed with Niska's fluids. The group works frantically to save Max, with his reserve power dropping to a critical 1%. Maddie notices a slight increase in his reserve power, but Mia cautions everyone not to celebrate before Max completes a full 13-hour charge. Meanwhile, Karen, also known as Beatrice, has an intense conversation with Edwin about the accident where she killed George. Edwin recognizes her as a synth but notices she's different. Karen reveals she was created to replace Beatrice, David Elster's wife, and wants to stop the other synth's plans. She makes a shocking request for Edwin to destroy her after they complete their mission, and he agrees. The next day, Leo attempts to power up Max, but the process fails as Max begins malfunctioning. Investigating the code, Leo realizes Max's prolonged low-power state is causing him to lose consciousness and might be beyond saving. In desperation, Leo recalls the secret code in their heads that can be used to transfer consciousness, and the other synths agree to the risky procedure. Meanwhile, a dramatic turn occurs when Laura sees a news report showing Niska attacking and killing people. Immediately, she sends Sophie, who was sitting on Niska's lap, to her room. Laura and Joe demand the synths leave, viewing them as a serious threat. Leo pleads for them to stay until Max is fixed, but Laura and Joe firmly refuse. Understanding their position, Mia announces they are leaving. Leo angrily shuts his laptop and storms out. In a shocking twist, Karen suddenly appears before Leo, who can hardly believe his eyes seeing his mother. Leo brings Karen to meet the other family members. However, Niska immediately senses something is wrong. She warns Leo that Karen is not to be trusted, and that this is a trap, urging him to run immediately. Her suspicions are quickly proven correct. Edwin suddenly enters the house with a SWAT team, resulting in the arrest of all of David Elster's synths, including Leo. Leo finds himself tied up in a hospital gown, captured by Edwin Hobb. Edwin calls him a miracle before leaving. Leo notices his unconscious siblings are also restrained and helpless. The situation escalates when police seize all mobile devices and laptops from the Hawking family's house without providing any legal justification. The family retreats upstairs to develop a rescue plan, with Maddie highlighting Leo's memories as potential proof of his humanity. But the footage is on Maddie's laptop, which was taken by the police. Edwin powers up all the synths, trying to link them to uncover David Elster's secret program for granting synthetics consciousness. Niska warns against it, fearing misuse. However, Leo argues it's their last chance to save Max. They agree to link up, but the attempt fails. They realize Karen is missing from the group, a key piece needed to unlock the secret. In a twist of events, Pete overhears the Hawking family discussing conscious synthetics and wants to know more about Karen, who has been his friend for a long time. Laura offers to tell him everything if he helps them. Pete assists the children in retrieving Maddie's laptop from the police van, and they escape before the chief can stop them. The turning point comes when Maddie discovers Leo's memory files on her laptop. She sends these to Laura, who uses the evidence to confront Edwin. Laura threatens to expose everything to the press, which would potentially send Edwin to jail. Just as the researchers are about to begin cutting into Mia's body, Edwin calls and orders them to stop the procedure and release the synthetics. Laura initiates a mysterious plan, calling Mia to a significant location from their past. She leaves with Sophie and Joe, heading to the same place. As all of them reach their destination, Fred suddenly starts behaving strangely. It's revealed that Edwin has secretly planted a transmitter inside Fred, using him to track their location. The situation escalates when police cars approach. The group flees to an anti-synth protest, where they find temporary safety. They discuss how the police found them, with Toby mentioning Fred's odd behavior. Leo attempts to check on Fred, but when he approaches, Fred attacks. Joe quickly intervenes and shuts Fred down, preventing further danger. Leo contacts Edwin by phone, revealing that the consciousness program they've discovered is incomplete. He then reaches out to Karen, asking for her help in obtaining David Elster's secret program. Later, Leo struggles to fix Fred as Edwin has made fundamental changes to Fred's root code, making repair impossible. Unexpectedly, Karen arrives, surprising everyone. The group decides to link up and search for David Elster's secret code. However, as soon as they close their eyes, Karen attempts to sabotage their plan. She starts corrupting everyone's root code, intending to kill them all. Karen believes that the power to give consciousness to all synths is too dangerous. A crucial moment occurs when Mia pleads with Karen, reminding her that Leo is her son and that he loves her. These words touch Karen's heart, and she begins to help the group instead of destroying them. When they open their eyes, Leo checks and discovers that Max has regained his consciousness. They've successfully obtained the secret program on their laptop. True to her complex character, Karen leaves without saying a word. Niska makes a critical decision about the consciousness program. She downloads the program onto a hard drive and deletes it from the laptop, believing they need to carefully consider the implications of giving consciousness to every synth. She then proposes to give the hard drive to Laura, someone they all trust, until they can decide its ultimate fate. Mia takes a moment to say goodbye and express gratitude to the Hawking family before leaving. Niska, however, chooses to leave alone, seeking a different path for herself. Meanwhile, Pete encounters Karen on the streets. Despite knowing she is a synth, they share a long-standing friendship, and Pete invites her to come home with him. The next day, while working, Maddie realizes her second hard drive is missing. The scene reveals Niska as the culprit. She has secretly downloaded the consciousness program onto 2 drives, which means Niska now has the power to give consciousness to any synth she chooses, whenever she wants.
So friends, that's all in today's video. If you like this video, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I will meet you in the next video. Till then, peace out.